A gentle wind rolled across the quiet neighborhood as Ilara stepped off the bus, clutching the strap of her worn purse. She had worked 3 shifts today, first at the bakery, then at the daycare, and finally at the evening tutoring center. Her life had become a cycle of exhaustion, responsibility, and small quiet hopes that rarely bloomed into anything real. But today, something unexpected happened, something she wasn't sure she should even entertain. Because a billionaire, yes, a real billionaire had spoken to her, she still replayed the moment in her mind. The tall man in the dark gray tailored suit, stepping out of a car that looked like it wasn't even meant for everyday roads. Cassian Hale, owner of Hale International, father of 2 kids, widower, and someone the world watched with fascination. She had met him only because she worked at the daycare where his twins, Milo and Mira, attended part-time. Most parents rushed through the pickup line, handing off instructions or complaints without sparing a glance at the workers. But Cassian, he noticed everything. 3 days ago, when she'd knelt beside Mira to tie her shoelace, he'd stopped mid-phone call just to thank her. Not the usual polite, distracted thank you, but one with warmth, as if he truly saw her. And Ilara wasn't used to being seen. So when his car pulled beside her after her shift tonight, she nearly kept walking. Rich people didn't stop for girls like her. But then the window lowered and his voice drifted out, calm and steady. "Ilara, do you have a moment?" She turned, heart racing. "Mr. Hale, is everything okay? Did something happen with the twins?" He shook his head. "No, they're fine. Actually, they've been asking for you." A soft, rare smile touched his lips. "They want you to come visit the house." Ilara blinked. "Visit? Why, they like you," Cassian said simply. "And they've had a difficult year. You've helped them more than you know. I would appreciate if you came by, as a friend." No one like him ever called someone like her a friend. Now, hours later, Ilara stood outside the iron gates of the Hale estate, unsure if she'd made a mistake. The mansion looked unreal tall pillars, warm golden windows, vines trained carefully along elegant stone walls. It wasn't intimidating because it was big. It was intimidating because it looked like a world where she didn't belong. A world where money smoothed every surface and life stayed warm and bright. She hesitated. Turn back. Tell him it was too much. Tell him she... The gates clicked open automatically. "Ilara," a small voice squeaked. Mira's head popped out from behind a tall hedge, her curls bouncing with excitement. "You came. Daddy said maybe you wouldn't, but I told him you would." Ilara smiled despite her nerves. "Of course I came." Milo appeared next, dragging a stuffed dinosaur by the leg. "We waited by the window for so long. Want to see our secret room?" Before Ilara could respond, they had each taken one of her hands, tugging her toward the house. Their tiny fingers were warm, familiar in the way that made her chest tighten. She cared for these kids far more than she was supposed to. The front doors opened before they reached them. Cassian stood there, no suit, no tie, just a soft charcoal sweater that made him look far more human than the image plastered across magazines. He exhaled in relief when he saw her. "You made it," he said quietly. "I wasn't sure I should." "That's understandable." His eyes softened. "But I'm glad you're here." The twins dragged her inside, babbling about every corner of the house. High ceilings arched above them, glowing with warm lights. The floors gleamed, but not in a cold, museum way. It felt lived in, touched, gently loved. Cassian walked beside her, hands in his pockets, watching her reactions as if they mattered. "You don't have to be nervous," he murmured. "This is just a home, nothing more." She nodded, though she didn't quite believe it. The twins led them first to a playroom, then to a music room where Mira plunked out a small tune on a piano. Milo showed her a tiny model rocket he'd built with Cassian, and all the while she felt their eyes bright, trusting, hopeful, turned toward her as though she were someone special. Cassian caught her gaze once, his expression quietly thoughtful. "You make them feel safe," he said. Alara swallowed. "They're wonderful kids." "They're wonderful because people like you haven't given up on them." For a brief moment, the air between them warmed, something soft and unspoken, stretching across the space. She looked away first. When it was time for dinner, Cassian asked, "Will you stay and eat with us?" Alara opened her mouth to decline. She couldn't sit at a billionaire's table. She wouldn't know how. But before she could say anything, Milo wrapped his arms around her waist. "Please don't go." "Stay with us," Mira added, clinging to her side. Cassian watched, surprised, almost moved. "You don't have to," he whispered, "but they really do care for you." It was the way he said care, as if he wasn't just talking about the twins. Alara's heart trembled. She nodded. "Okay, I'll stay." The twins cheered. Cassian smiled, really smiled. And for one fragile moment, Alara felt like she belonged somewhere she never imagined she could. Dinner in the Hale mansion wasn't the stiff, formal scene Alara imagined. Cassian insisted they sit at the cozy table near the wide kitchen windows instead of the long, formal dining hall. The twins sat on either side of her, passing plates, giggling, insisting she try everything the chef prepared, even though she was certain it was more food than her weekly groceries combined. But what struck her the most wasn't the wealth. It was how Cassian watched his children, attentive, gentle, protective. He wasn't the cold, distant billionaire the news made him seem. He was a father trying desperately to make his home feel whole again. At one point, Mira leaned her head against Alara's arm and said softly, "Daddy smiles more when you're here." Cassian nearly dropped his fork. "Mira," he murmured under his breath, a faint flush touching his cheeks. Alara's heart beat faster. She didn't comment. She didn't know how to. After dinner, the twins begged her to read them a bedtime story. Cassian raised a brow, surprised they never asked anyone except him, but he said nothing. He only led her upstairs with the quiet, reverent air of someone witnessing something rare. The twins curled under their blanket, drifting slowly to sleep as she read. Cassian stood in the doorway, arms crossed lightly, watching with an expression somewhere between gratitude and something deeper, something he didn't dare name. When the final page turned and the children's breaths grew slow and even, Alara gently closed the book. She stepped out of the room, and Cassian followed, closing the door silently behind them. "You have a gift," he whispered, "with them, with people." She shook her head. "I just try my best." "Your best," he said, holding her gaze, "is the first real warmth this house has felt in a long time." The words hit her harder than they should have. She looked away, afraid of letting herself believe anything too impossible. "I should go," she murmured. Cassian exhaled softly. "I figured you might say that." They walked to the front door together. He opened it for her, but before she stepped outside, a small sound echoed behind them. Tiny footsteps. The twins stood at the top of the stairs, sleepy-eyed, clutching their stuffed toys. "Don't leave," Mira whispered. "Please stay," Milo added. "Just one more night. We feel safe when you're here." Alara froze, breath trembling. Cassian's eyes met hers this time with no barriers, no practiced calm, just raw truth. "They're not the only ones who don't want you to leave," he said quietly. Her heart cracked open, and for the first time in a very long time, she didn't feel alone.